Anyway, I played Mega Man X3, and I do want to talk about it actually because I've never actually beaten the game. I'm a huge Mega Man fan. I've never actually beaten X3. Um, I've only played the first three. Am I a sham because I've never played X4? I probably am. I gotta play it at some point, right? I've played a lot of Mega Man games. So Mega Man X3 is interesting because it was the first one, and I think the only one in the X series that was not developed by Capcom. It was developed by a different studio called... Oh lord, I just had them up. Minakuchi Engineering, who were also the people who did... That's weird. Moby lists it as Capcom, although that is not. Capcom might have had some development help. Minakuchi Engineering also did the Mega Man Game Boy games, also known as Rockman World. They did the Wily Wars, which was like the trilogy release that was on the Genesis. Weirdly enough, they made Kicks, or they published Kicks or Quicks or something. I don't know how they were involved in it. Kicks is like a weird puzzle. It's kind of a neat puzzle game. It's where you're drawing lines in a box to like make smaller boxes inside of it, starting from the borders, and you have to avoid, like while you're drawing, you have to avoid getting hit by this weird shape that's bouncing around. Kind of a cool game. QIX. I think it's, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, so they actually developed, for some reason, they did not develop X3. Or sorry, they developed X3 and not Capcom. And you can kind of feel it. X3 so I had, now having played all three of the first of like the Super Nintendo trilogy of Mega Man X, or having them all like kind of in my mind, X3 is probably the worst one, but it's not a bad game by any means. There's a lot of things I actually really like about it. The first thing that comes to mind is, man, the mobility is really fun to use in that game. So they added on to the stuff from X2. So X1 had the dash, classic Mega Man thing. X2 added the air dash, which is, I love the air dash in X2. And X3 adds an additional upwards dash, which I also think is really cool because you can use it. It feels so good. It's really honestly impressive for a game of this time period to have such a free-flowing movement as X3 does. Because there's all the stuff you can do with dashing. You can dash jump off of walls for like more momentum. You can do all sorts of air dashing stuff, jump off a wall, dash back into it to avoid things. There's like the wall sliding. And then they add in the up dash, and the up dash, you pause in the air, you stall your aerial momentum, and then zip upwards after a second. And you can cancel out of it at like any time. So you can do some honestly pretty intricate, cool movement by like jumping off a wall, up dash, canceling, and like falling back into the wall, or over here and like dodging this thing. It just really good feeling game to control. X feels really fun in that game. The general level design also pretty solid. There's some parts where it, I think, lacks a little bit. There's some bits that I find a little bit tedious. I would say it's funny because, I mean, judging a Mega Man game is hard because so many of them are like the same. So I guess it might be easier to break it down by the kind of like Mega Man categories, like the criteria that I kind of think of, which is like the level design, the weapons, the music and all that. The level design for the most part is pretty solid. There's some fun stuff in there. A couple levels are... A lot of them have like little gimmicks. Blizzard Buffalo or Billzard Buffalo. if you abide by the typo in the intro to the Saturn version. Has like these it's like an ice level, and I'm at a conflict because it might be one of the most beautiful backgrounds for an ice level I've ever seen. I love the background to Blizzard Buffalo's stage. Go look it up. It's just this awesome scene. The music is great. Presentation wise, amazing. The ice physics on a flat surface, they're fine, but there is something really weird about the momentum. Like, you can dash on the ice and you'll slide a little bit after you stop. But God help you, if you walk, take one step on an incline, on a downwards incline, you will zip down like a block of concrete into the ocean. You will just zoom. And I think the first instance of that, on the first screen of the level, is like right into a pit of spikes. And then so is the next one. And it's like, why did you, like, come on, what the hell? I feel like the way that you set that up is the first one drops you into like a little pit that you can just hop out of, you know? A little bit of 4-panel design. But instead they're like, drop you right into spikes. There's like a little bit of like slightly sloppy level design like that. Toxic Seahorse's stage has like some water that has, I don't know, it feels like they didn't really commit to it doing very much. It just makes it a little harder to like wall jump or something like that. There's plenty of fun bits in the levels, you know. It's general, straightforward, good Mega Man X running and gunning and wall jumping and dashing, you know. Very similar to the previous games. But with these little bits of like tedium. There's these moments in X3 where you feel like it's not really hard. You just have to be patient. And that's kind of annoying. Like, a lot of the bosses are weird because they oscillate between completely, like, they between having like Cloudman syndrome, or, oh shit, this one's like actually very hard even with the weakness weapon. Or this one's genuinely like, it's a real fight even with the weakness weapon. Cloudman syndrome is, I don't know if anyone, is that just a me term? I forget. In Mega Man 7, if you have Cloudman's weakness weapon, he literally can't do anything. You just hit him and then he falls and then he rises back up and then you use it again. And I think, is the screen clear one? So it like hits full screen. It's like a completely pathetic fight, you know? It's like the Mega Man series has always had this thing that's either like, you know, your mileage may vary on how you feel about it, but when you have the weakness weapon of a boss, they can just be complete pushovers of just like impressively easy fights. And sometimes like some people find that cool, some people find that rewarding, especially if you figure it out on your own by trial and error, like experimentation with the weapons. Other people might find that a little bit disappointing. It sort of varies for me. Sometimes it's just kind of nice to be able to phone in a boss fight. But there are like particular mini bosses and just these instances in the game where you just have to wait. Like there's this mini boss in, I want to say Tunnel Rhino stage. That's like a big centipede thing. And you can only hit this one particular, like only its head. And the head is very small. And it comes out of the walls and it lets out these two little bouncing projectile things, which are not difficult at all to dodge or destroy. And you just kind of have to wait. You just sort of have to wait. No, that's on Neon Tiger's stage. Just these like tiny little moments that just aren't quite as good, where the action really gets broken up. The upgrades in X3 are a little hit or miss also. I think for the most part, they're fine. The leg upgrades are really fun because they give you the air dash and the up dash. The game, they're like basically required. They're in Blizzard Buffalo's stage, by the way. They're basically required. I don't see, there are parts of the game I don't know how you could do without those parts. I think by far the most disappointing is the arm upgrades. The arm upgrades in the X series always function as they give you a super powered up shot. So you can charge to like level 3, right? These let you charge to level 4 or I don't know, 5 or something like that. In X2 has the bell. It's so good to use. Like the second shot, you basically, so you fire your regular charged shot, and then you have another one stored up that is like this, like swirling, spiraling projectile that just shoots forward and just obliterates everything. It feels so good to use. The one in X3, genuinely, the arm upgrade in X3 feels like a downgrade. It is one of the few cases where getting an upgrade feels worse than not having the upgrade. Essentially, the way it works is you charge up like your super shot, and it's this, again, like this small spiraling projectile that you shoot out that definitely does more damage, but it's nothing really special. And when it hits something, it will occasionally, like, I don't know if it's like if it deals damage or if it like hits a wall or some part that can't be, some part that's like invulnerable. It does this weird pattern where another projectile will come out of it and like move backwards and then kind of fan out and then spread forwards. It's just sort of awkward to use. But it also gives you access to the weirdest, most like special shot type, which is where the idea is kind of neat. It's essentially you shoot out the first projectile, the spinning one, and then you shoot out the other charge shot. Because if you charge up to level 3, you get the special shot, and then you get your regular charge shot. And if you shoot the charge shot into the special shot, it like creates a whole fan of projectiles that like spread out and then like very slowly spread out and then move forward in this pattern. And it's just like kind of hard to use and make use of, and it's slow, and it causes a lot of slowdown on screen. The Mega Man games have always had a problem since the first classic series game with slowdown, where they just like, they liked to put more stuff on screen than those consoles could handle. It's always been a thing, and that's like the super special charge shot does not help with that. Like the game gets kind of hard to play at certain points because of the massive amount of slowdown that occurs. The special weapons also have a little bit of issue with being awkward to use as well. There's like 2 of them that are essentially fire a like missile type projectile that hangs in the air for a second and then speeds up and accelerates forward. There's like, it's super weird. There's 2 that work the exact same way. Tunnel Rhino's like drill thing, and then Blizzard Buffalo's ice spike thing. The Toxic Seahorse's like acid shot thing is this odd sort of lobbing projectile that feels like it just has, the range is just a little too short. It doesn't go quite far enough. Triad Thunder is this strange sort of, it's kind of like a shield. It surrounds you with this like triangle of electricity, and then it shoots out at the points of the triangle. And it's sort of weird to hit stuff with it. I actually like Crush Crawfish's weapon, which is like this splitting it's like this splitting buzzsaw thing. It comes out as one large projectile, and then it splits into 2 and then moves backwards. It like spreads vertically up and down, and then those 2 projectiles move backwards. Actually sort of fun to use, kind of a neat weapon. The other ones are like, what are the other special weapons in that game? Oh, the gravity well is fine. That's like a screen clearing kind of thing. It's sort of cool. Neon Tiger has Ray Splasher. Is that what it is? It just shoots a bunch of projectiles in like a shotgun pattern. It's fine. It's decent. Like most of the weapons, they're okay, if not like a little awkward to use, either because of the directions they move in, the speed that they go at, the angles that they hit, or the just sort of behavior of them. Like it's not like an amazing, for me, the gold standard. I think that the game with the one Mega Man game that has like the best set of weapons is 6. I think Mega Man 6 is, I'm sure there's other ones that have comparable weapon sets that I'm just not thinking of, but Mega Man 6 to me feels like every single weapon is good. There are like no truly bad weapons. There's some that are slightly more niche, like Windman's, which isn't super special, but every single one feels like it fulfills a different purpose, and it makes it so fun to switch between them. It really feels like a game that's pushing the design of the series really well. There are games like Mega Man 4 where I think in general the weapons are all good. They're just very samey. They all just kind of shoot a thing forward with a little twist. They just shoot a thing straight forward. So there's a lot of variance in the way that the weapon selection of the way that I interpret them. I could ramble about Mega Man for a long time. The other sort of, so the weapons they're fine. They're decent. The level design is overall pretty good, although there are parts where you just have to wait. I think the game really starts to drop off, like really fall apart in its last couple stages. There are moments that I just absolutely despise. There's this god awful part. Like that's the one time I save stated, or I was not save stating the whole game, and then I hit this part where you have to like rapidly wall jump up this corridor, up this like tower, where the walls are crushing like inwards, but they're not like both sides are crushing inwards at the same time. One section is moving to the right, and then the next one up above will be moving to the left, and the next one up above is moving to the right. And I hate that shit. And it's like right in the middle of the level, right in the middle of the stage. It's so easy to die. I just save stated there. The final boss actually sucks ass. For real. Like, the final boss sucks. Sigma sucks in this game. Sigma's always been hard. He's always been a hard boss. But I really dislike the design of... So he's got 2 phases. The first phase is really hard, but honestly, once I learned the pattern, it wasn't that bad. It was, again, just executing the pattern over and over and over and over again. He shoots out these fireballs really rapidly, really, really fast, like way faster than any other thing in the game attacks. They shoot, he fires like 6 volleys, but they're in like a consistent pattern. I got this down pat. I was on this for like two hours last night. It's like the first one is low and you have to hop over it. The second one hits high and you can just let it sail over your head. The third one hits in the middle and you can dash underneath it. And he does that twice. He repeats that pattern twice. So hop, wait, dash. Hop, wait, dash. Then you have to dash into the corner, because after he does that, he jumps into the air and shoots some projectiles downwards. But if you're too close to the center, he'll shoot them straight down and they'll spread out, which is harder to dodge and it's harder to get a hit in on him. But if you're in the corner, he'll shoot at the corner and then you can just dash underneath him and hit him for free. And then halfway through the fight, he starts throwing his shield, which like boomerangs back to him. And then it's actually pretty easy to work into the pattern. It's just, you're doing it over and over and over again. It's just the length. Even when you have the weapon he's weak to, it's just the length of the fight. When you have it down pat, it's so long. You're doing the same thing over and over. but it's okay. Like, I learned it, and it was just doing it. The second fight sucks so much dick, dude. I hate that fucking second fight. Kaiser Sigma might be one of the worst final bosses in the series. He is in this gigantic armor. He can only face in one direction. He takes up at least half the screen at any given moment. His whole pattern is okay. So first of all, his actual hitbox of where most of him is invulnerable. The actual hitbox of where you can deal damage to him is so vanishingly small and weird. It's like his head, kind of, but also the area slightly above it. He's got these shoulder vents, like these pipes that let out these fucker mines. Essentially, his whole pattern is he lifts into the air, he moves forward, he drops down, you have to dash under him. He releases some mines from his shoulder things. He shoots some missiles at you. The missiles are annoying because they either come out as a cluster, which all hit at around the same time and are very easy to dodge, or he shoots them out as a spread, which hit like 1, 2, 3, 4 in sequence. And are much harder to dodge, and it's super unclear when he's going to do what and how you have to dodge them. You really just have to improvise on the spot and just kind of hope that you get the easier version of the attack. He's also shooting these fucking mines. The mines are easily the worst part, because the mines have weird behavior where every third one homes in on you. Some of them will move in like a preset pattern, and then the third one will like move forward and then track you. Like home in on wherever you were at the point that it stopped. And it leads to these situations where you cannot dodge anything. You can actually just completely screw yourself, where he shoots the missiles out and you can dodge the missiles, but you can't dodge the mine as well. You have to get hit by one or the other. And it always does like a third of your health every time it hits, and it sucks. And then he does another, he goes up into the air, and then he goes back to the other side of the room, then he drops down, and then you gotta shoot him in his face / shoulders. He has no weakness weapon besides just the regular X-Buster, and he takes so many hits. It is the most miserable boss fight I've played in a really long time. Just for the sheer length. There is nothing new happening. He has this little ray attack that he does depending on whether or not you were on the top or bottom half of the screen when he lands. That's it. That's the whole pattern. That's the whole boss. It is just patience and hoping that you get lucky on the attacks and hoping that the mines don't screw you over. It took me 2 hours because he has so much fucking health, and you just can't do that much damage to him very quickly. You can get really lucky on a couple good cycles and aim properly. You have to be on the wall. There's no place you can just stand and hit him. You have to be sliding down the wall, which leads to all sorts of weird timing stuff. Using the max charge shot is really hard because more often than not, it ends up dinking off on the part of him that's invulnerable. So you have to use the level 1 charge shot because it's narrower. Oh my God. It's so fucking slow. One of the most miserable boss fights I've played in forever. And it left me with such a sour taste in my mouth that it made me think about something. So there's some people will say, like, okay, the most important part of your game to make good, I mean, ideally the whole game would be good, but if you have to choose, the most important part is the beginning, because that's the part that most people are going to play. And if you want to hook people in, you have to at least make the beginning the best part. That's why so many games design the first level or the first area last, because they're taking all the skills that they learned, right? I would say the second most important part to make good is the end. The last 10% of your game, I think, should be good, because if the first bit is bad, if the first segment is bad, that's going to turn people off. If the last segment is bad, it is going to leave people with such a sour taste in their mouth, where the last impression, a bad ending can completely color your perception of anything, of a show, of a movie, of any, like, there are movies. Okay. What is it called? The Game. Who's in that? There's a movie called, yes, with, it's a David Fincher movie starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn from 1997. It's a great movie. It's a great thriller. And then the ending sucks balls. The twist at the end fucking blows, and it killed like the whole movie for me in retrospect. It is so stupid. And it makes me like legitimately not want to watch it again. It's a movie that I went from like, if it had even an okay ending, I would have gone, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't mind watching that again, to, oh fuck this, I don't want to go through this again. This movie's bullshit. A bad last impression is the thing that I think prevents people from recommending it to people, which I think is important. There are so many people who will say, oh, just skip X3. Just skip it, and you don't have to play it. Would I say skip it? You know what's funny? The music is weird. Okay, the music is funny. The Mega Man is known for its having great music, and X3 is a little bit hit or miss for me. It doesn't quite... Okay. I would say that traditionally, when I think of X music, I think of like metal. Like power metal is how I would describe it. Maybe that's not exactly the right term, but really strong melodies, MIDI guitar and bass, sometimes horns or orchestra hits, powerful, very melodic, catchy songs. Think about like Boomer Cowanger's theme. Just really driving melodies, total earworms, with the occasional, outlier. I think of like Bubble Crab's theme from Megaman X3 with the xylophone. It goes bum 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 ba-dum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba, and the bass is like boom ba-dum bum 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 bum, and it gets all like groovy and underwater music-y, X3 is weird because a lot of the songs, I'm listening to Neon Tiger's stage theme, and I'm like, this isn't quite clicking for me. It's just, there's something that's just kind of missing with it. I don't remember the exact like how it goes, so I'll just do an impression of it. But this thought occurred to me, and I said, okay, I'm imagining this song, but with real instruments and performed as like a heavy, slow, like metal song. Something like bom, 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 something almost like doomy, you know that one Doom song, it's like don, don, da, don, don, da, don, don, da, don, 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 don. A lot of X3 songs kind of have that vibe to me, where they would almost fit as like a groovy, dark, like metal song, like something really heavy. And I'm picturing it with that kind of an instrumentation, and in my mind it sounds a lot better. Like it makes a lot more sense to me. I think the previous games, X1 and X2, their music is very complementary to the MIDI soundscape that they were using, whereas X3 isn't quite as much. There's advantages and disadvantages to using MIDI, and I feel like kind of knowing what sorts of instruments to use and in what combinations. And there's plenty of good tracks, like Toxic Seahorse has a good track. The opening stage has a really good song. The opening is just in general really cool and cinematic. Using almost entirely just like in-game like regular sprites of Mega Man and Zero. I didn't even talk about Zero. Zero, this marks the first time that Zero is playable in any game. Is in Megaman X3. And on stream, I did not play as him a single time. Sorry, you play as him during the intro, during the first stage. But the rest of the game, I did not call him a single time. He's a thing that you can call in. You spawn in as X, but it's not like X4, where you have a Mega Man and a Zero playthrough. For a few reasons. The first one is that I played... Okay, so number one, I think if you die as Zero or you game over as Zero, you can't use him again or something. He's like a weird limited resource. The second one is that the first time I played this game, I remember like, oh my god, I'm going to play as Zero now. And Zero does not feel good in this game. I'd have to see how he plays in X4, but in 3, he is very clunky and weird. He feels kind of slower. He doesn't have the same like air dashing or up dashing that X does, which means that he is way low. He's lower mobility, and just the way that his weapons work is weird. He can charge up his buster to like 3 or 4 levels, but he shoots like one shot and then another shot, and then he slashes with his sword, and it just... Something about it is just a little awkward feeling. He doesn't feel great in that game. I think if you want, like, personally, maybe the best Zero gameplay, the best playable version of him, in my opinion, of the games that I've played, it's got to be the Zero series. The Zero series is, like, phenomenal. It feels so good. I would essentially pitch them as being kind of like 2D Devil May Cries. Not quite the same focus on combat or combos. Sorry, combos, I should say. But in like the speed and the range of options that are available to you. Like it has the feeling of a character action game where you are just speeding through levels and switching between weapons and unlocking stuff. And it is very cool. Those are great games. Yeah, Zero's not great. This game has a lot of upgrades. It's got a lot of upgrades. Like, some people call it bloated. I see where they come from on that. It has, like... So it's got all of the armor upgrades. It's got 4 different ride armors. You can unlock the ride armors, which is cool. It's a cool idea. And there's, like, certain parts of the level where you can, like, summon them in. They also have upgrade chips, which are like additional upgrade, like enhancements to different parts of your armor. And then there's also this thing called the gold armor, which is like another super mode, but you can't get the gold armor if you get even a single one of the enhancement chips for some reason. It's a little weird. It's just kind of weird. There's a little bit arguably too much. Yeah, it's not a bad game by any means, but you can definitely tell it's a little bit shaky. I want to say like 80 to 90% of it is quite good, and then the rest of it is, I don't like this very much. I don't like the rest of it. But definitely worth checking out, I think, if you're it's not the most standout game in the series. I would say the most essential ones to play would probably be like 1 and 4, just based off of sheer popularity. I should really go through and actually play all of the X games that I haven't played yet. So just 4 onwards, essentially. I don't want to play 6 and 7, although it would be funny. I should just buy those collections. Don't I own? I own. Fuck. What Mega Man collections do I own? I forget. Anyway, that's X3. Not bad, but not the best in the series.